Forget your four-leaf clovers and broken mirrors. Folks believed in some bizarre things out here. Ever heard of a haunted mind that could drive a man mad, or a ghostly cowboy who'd appear to make sure you didn't cheat at cards? If you think wearing a rabbit's foot is strange, wait until you hear what the prospectors were burying under their bedrolls. In the Wild West, the law was scarce, and danger lurked around every cactus. People clung to any belief that might give them an edge, or at least explain away their bad luck. Cowboys, outlaws, and gold miners had their fare of strange rituals, wild legends, and ridiculous customs. Whether it was believed that a coyote's howl could summon a storm, or that a particular canyon was cursed because of a miner who refused to share his lucky pickaxe, the Wild West was full of colorful characters and even more colorful beliefs. We're about to ride through some of the most head-scratching superstitions and legends ever to come out of the American frontier. Just watch out for any black cats or black horses crossing your path. Number 1. The superstition of the rabbit's foot. If there was one thing the cowboys of the Wild West believed in, as much as their trusty revolvers, it was luck. And when it came to luck, nothing beat the rabbit's foot. Yes, that's right. These rugged, no-nonsense men and women who survived shootouts, rattlesnake bites, and the harshest of landscapes believed their best chance of survival lay in the severed foot of a fluffy bunny. A little weird? Sure. But, hey, in the Wild West, you couldn't exactly pop into a store for a lucky charm, so a rabbit's foot would have to do. The belief in a rabbit's foot as a good luck charm predates the Wild West and stretches back to ancient cultures in Europe and Africa. However, when the superstition crossed the Atlantic and entered the hands of American settlers, it really found its stride. Frontier folk weren't exactly living cushy lives, so they clung to any belief that might give them an edge, no matter how bizarre. Cowboys, in particular, found the rabbit's foot appealing. After all, if a rabbit could outrun predators and survive in the wild, then maybe, just maybe, carrying part of that swift little critter would help them dodge bullets, find gold, or, at the very least, win a poker game. But it wasn't just any rabbit's foot that did the trick. The rules could have been more specific. To be considered truly lucky, the foot had to come from the left hind leg of a rabbit caught under a full moon. Bonus points if the poor bunny met its fate at the hands of a cross-eyed person. Once you had your prized rabbit's foot, the next step was simple. Carry it everywhere. Cowboys tucked them into their pockets, tied them to their horses' saddles, and even hung them around their necks. You could say it was the 1800s version of a smartphone, except instead of checking the weather, it just warded off bad luck. But the truth is, like most superstitions, the rabbit's foot charm was a way for people to bring a little control and comfort to a life that was often unpredictable and dangerous. And in the Wild West, where every day could be your last, it didn't hurt to have a little extra luck dangling in your pocket, even if it was just a scruffy, dried-up foot from an unfortunate rabbit. Number 2. Never close a knife someone else opened. Among the quirkiest was the superstition that you should never, under any circumstances, close a knife someone else opened. It sounds simple enough, but like many frontier superstitions, this one was taken seriously enough to cause tension in more than a few saloons and ranches across the West. The belief was that if you closed a knife someone else opened, you'd bring bad luck to both of you. This wasn't just about a run of bad poker hands or a spoiled meal. The bad luck could be serious, like a rattlesnake bite, a horse throwing you off, or your cattle stampeding off a cliff. And in the Wild West, where life was already teetering on the edge of chaos, no one wanted to invite any extra misfortune. Some cowboys even believed it could sever the friendship between the two people involved, which was a big deal in a place where trust and loyalty were as vital as your next breath. The superstition that closing a knife someone else opened would bring bad luck likely has roots in both practical concerns and deep-seated folklore. Knives were indispensable tools on the frontier, used for everything from hunting and eating to mending gear and self-defense. They were also often sharp, dangerous, and in some cases, family heirlooms. If someone handed you an open knife, the act of closing it might seem disrespectful or even presumptuous, especially if the knife had been opened for a specific task. Number 3. The legend of Pecos Bill. This larger-than-life character isn't just another frontier hero. He's the ultimate tall tale, packed with exaggerated feats that make even the most daring cowboy look like a beginner. Pecos Bill's story starts off in a way that's anything but ordinary. According to legend, he was born at 1830, but later separated from his family. Later on, he was found as a baby being raised by coyotes. That's right. This cowboy grew up in the wild, learning to be tough and fearless from his animal family. One of the most famous stories about Pecos Bill is his showdown with a tornado. While most people would run from a tornado, Pecos Bill did the opposite, lassoed it, and rode it like a bucking bronco. He supposedly rode that tornado to Kansas, showing it who's boss. The tornado was so impressed that it would return to visit Pecos Bill whenever he was around to remind everyone of that wild ride. Another tall tale involves Pecos Bill and a mountain lion. According to the story, Bill didn't just wrestle the lion, he tamed it and made it his pet. He even named it Sassafras and trained it to help herd cattle. Imagine having a mountain lion as a pet helper. That's Pecos Bill for you. No Pecos Bill story is complete without how he roped the Rio Grande River. According to legend, Pecos Bill was so bored that he lassoed the entire Rio Grande and used it as a watering trough for his cattle. The result? He allegedly tied the river into a neat knot and then used it to fill up a trough so large it could water a herd of cattle in one gulp. Pecos Bill wasn't just a lone ranger of the frontier. He had a romantic side, too. He fell head over heels for a woman named Slewfoot Sue, a lady as wild and adventurous as he was. Their romance was as legendary as Pecos himself. Like all tall tales, Pecos Bill's story ends with a twist. After many years of defying the odds and rewriting the laws of nature, Bill decided to ride off into the sunset. He rode his trusty steed into the sky, leaving only a trail of dust and a legacy of larger-than-life adventures. To this day, it's said that Pecos Bill's spirit lives on in every wild, untamed corner of the West. Number 4. The Wild West legend of the Bigfoot. While you might picture Bigfoot as a modern myth born from blurry photographs and blurry-eyed believers, this elusive creature had its own starring role in Wild West folklore. Bigfoot's roots can be traced back to Native American folklore, with various tribes having their own versions of a mysterious, ape-like creature. The term Sasquatch itself is derived from the Salish word Saskits, which means wild man. In the mid-19th century, as settlers pushed further into the wilderness, reports of a large, hairy creature circulated. These tales were not just wild ramblings. They were often recounted by seasoned frontiersmen and explorers who claimed to have seen footprints larger than a horse's hoof and heard howls that would make a wolf's ears twitch. The legend of Bigfoot in the Wild West wasn't just about a mysterious creature. It was a full-blown phenomenon. Some stories were told of gold miners who accidentally stumbled upon Bigfoot's supposed home, finding a cave full of berries and nuts, as if the giant were preparing for a feast. Another story tells of settlers who left their homestead hurriedly after hearing Bigfoot's terrifying howls and the sounds of trees crashing down. These settlers were known for bravery, so their fear added to the legend's intrigue. They even left some supplies behind, which made the tale seem even more dramatic. Number 5. The Haunted Bullock Hotel of the Wild West. Among the many strange tales from the Wild West, the Bullock Hotel in Deadwood, South Dakota, stands out as a hotspot for ghostly activity. Built by the famous Sheriff Seth Bullock, this hotel became known for its comfort, spooky living, and dead residents. In 1895, Seth Bullock, a tough lawman who cleaned up Deadwood, decided to build a grand hotel. He probably didn't expect it to become famous for ghost stories, but that happened. As soon as the hotel opened, strange things began to occur, leading many to believe it was haunted. It's only fitting that the spirit of the hotel's founder would linger around his creation. Reports of Seth Bullock's ghostly presence are particularly amusing. Guests and staff alike have recounted sightings of Bullock's apparition, dressed in his trademark black suit, wandering the halls, often with a stern expression. Some say he's still watching his investment, ensuring the hotel's operations run smoothly. Others believe he's annoyed that no one seems to listen when he advises them on better ways to run the place. The hotel's ballrooms are known for hosting eerie events. Visitors often hear piano music and clinking glasses, as if a ghostly party is in full swing. Some think it's the spirits of past dancers, while others believe it's a lingering echo from old poker games. Either way, the ballroom is never quiet. The Bullock Hotel is also famous for strange noises. Guests have heard footsteps in empty hallways, doors creaking open and shut by themselves, and ghostly whispers. One night, a clerk heard a commotion in an empty room, and upon investigating, was greeted by a voice saying, "We're just having a little party." Understandably, he decided to leave his shift early. Number 6. The Headless Horseman of the West El Muerto story begins in the dusty, often lawless regions of Texas and northern Mexico. The name El Muerto literally translates to, according to legend, El Muerto was a notorious bandit who met a grisly end, but not before he made quite an impression on local folklore. As the story goes, this particular bandit was so infamous that even the afterlife wanted to keep a close watch on him. He was decapitated by vengeful lawmen or rival criminals. The details vary depending on who you ask, but his spirit didn't rest easy. Instead, he returned as a headless horseman, riding the plains in search of those who dared to cross him or stumble upon his cursed path. The headless horseman was said to ride at night, his horse's hooves striking terror into the hearts of anyone who heard them. The sight of him was said to bring certain doom, or at the very least, a stroke of exceedingly bad luck. If you saw him, you could expect a visit from the Grim Reaper, or so the tales went. In 1917, a couple traveling in a covered wagon toward San Diego, Texas, set up camp outside the town for the night. As they enjoyed the warmth of their campfire, they were startled by the sudden appearance of a large gray stallion galloping past, ridden by a headless figure shouting, "It is mine! It is all mine!" The strange and eerie sight left them rattled. Decades later, in 1969, reports of the Headless Horseman resurfaced near Freer, Texas, continuing the legend of this spectral rider. Number 7. The Death Ship of the Platte River. The Death Ship story started in the 1800s during the gold rush. The Platte River was a key route for pioneers, traders, and gold seekers heading west. Among these travelers was a special steamboat. Unlike ordinary boats, this one was believed to be cursed. According to legend, this ship wasn't just any old vessel. It was a floating bad omen, doomed from the start. The tale goes that the ship, sometimes called the Lady Luck or the Devil's Own, was loaded with gold, supplies, and a crew of quirky characters. The ship faced bizarre problems, from freak storms to strange fires. It seemed like the river itself was out to get them. But the strangest part of the story was that the ship eventually vanished without a trace. Witnesses claimed to see a ghostly glow on the river and hear eerie laughter carried by the wind. Some even said they saw the ghostly crew trapped on their doomed vessel forever. The ship is believed to usually appear from a strange mist that quickly turns into a thick fog. As the ship gets closer, people see its sails and masts covered in frost. The crew is also frosted over and stands around a covered body on the deck. According to the legend, when this ghost ship is seen, it means someone will die that very day. When the crew steps aside, the body is revealed to be someone the witness knows. The first sighting happened in 1862. A trapper named Leon Weber saw the ship and recognized the body as his fiancée, who died later that day. Another sighting was in 1887, when a cattleman named Gene Wilson saw the ship and recognized the body as his wife's. In 1903, a man named Victor Hybe saw the ship while chopping wood by the river and saw the body of a close friend on the deck. Marshall Pass, located at a lofty 10,840 feet above sea level, was once a vital link in the Denver and Rio Grande Western Railroad. The pass, named after a local prospector, was an engineering marvel of its time. However, the treacherous terrain and relentless weather made maintaining the tracks a Herculean task. Like many Wild West tales, this story has a twist. Building the railroad was a challenging feat. The treacherous terrain and unpredictable weather made for a job site. Engineer Nelson Edwards was chugging along Colorado's icy tracks when something eerie happened. He heard and saw another train, seemingly right behind his own, barreling forward at breakneck speed. The warning light flashed urgently, signaling that he needed to brake immediately or risk a collision. With a gulp, Edwards pulled the lever, bringing his train to a halt. Miraculously, no crash occurred, and his locomotive was unharmed. But the next day, Edwards received a mysterious note recounting a tragic train wreck from years earlier. Shaken by the eerie coincidence, he decided to retire on the spot. Number 9. The Bandit Ghoul of 6 Mile Canyon. The story begins in the mid-19th century, when 6 Mile Canyon, located just outside Virginia City, Nevada, was a hotspot for stagecoach robberies and gunfights. One particularly infamous outlaw, known only as Big Jack, made 6 Mile Canyon his playground. He was as slippery as a greased pig and just as hard to catch. But in true Wild West fashion, his luck eventually ran out, and he met his end in a confrontation with a posse of determined law enforcement officers. That would be the end of his story, right? Not quite. However, the bandit's restless spirit decided the afterlife wasn't as thrilling as his former banditry days. Instead of heading to the great beyond, he stuck around 6 Mile Canyon, turning himself into what locals would know as the Bandit Ghoul. Witnesses reported seeing strange lights flickering in the canyon, often followed by the clatter of what sounded like spurs. Some folks claimed to have heard raucous laughter echoing through the canyon walls, even when no one else was around. One particularly memorable incident involved a group of convinced they'd been robbed by the ghoul, only to discover the stolen goods were scattered in a pattern that spelled out, "Gotcha! Number 10! Haunted Jesse James Farm, tucked away in Kearney, Missouri. The Jesse James Farm is more than just a piece of Wild West history. It's also famous for its ghostly tales. This old farm, once owned by the notorious outlaw Jesse James, is now a hotspot for spooky activity, where the past and the supernatural come together in some surprisingly entertaining ways." Jesse James was a famous outlaw, known for his daring bank robberies and stagecoach heists. His farm in Kearney was meant to be his retreat from his life of crime, a place where he could kick back and enjoy peace. But Jesse's life and death were anything but peaceful. In 1882, Jesse was betrayed and shot in the back of the head by Bob Ford, a member of his own gang. This dramatic end began a new chapter for the farm, one filled with ghost stories. Today, the Jesse James Farm isn't just a historical site. It's where people say they encounter the supernatural. Visitors and staff have reported many eerie experiences, from sudden cold spots to strange noises. And of course, there are plenty of ghost stories to go around. One of the most famous tales is about Jesse James' ghost. Some believe Jesse's spirit still roams the farm, possibly looking for lost treasures, or just hanging around his old stomping grounds. Visitors have reported seeing shadowy figures or spurs clinking as if Jesse is still watching things. The old farmhouse on the property is also said to be particularly haunted. People have claimed to see objects moving by themselves, lights flickering, and even feeling like they're being watched. Some think these spooky happenings are due to Jesse's ghost, while others believe it might be the spirits of those affected by his criminal activity. And there you have it, the wild and wacky world of Wild West superstitions and legends, where a rabbit's foot was considered a charm, but you still wouldn't want to close a knife someone else had opened. Kindly hit the subscribe button for exclusive access to our informative videos. Thanks for watching.